I'm here today with Matt Gillan from Heritage in the village of Slapham. Slapham is just to the east side of Horsham, and what a beautiful location. The view is stunning. Matt, are you going to tell us what we're cooking today?
Yeah, absolutely, Hilary. So I've got some beautiful pork loin, which has come from Downsview Farm. It's kind of like the Pulborough, so not the Lewis one. We're in kind of Pulborough with this.
Okay.
And it's come from Rob, New Street Butchers, and so I've used Rob for years. And yeah, the pork is just stunning from there. So we're going to keep that on the bone. We'll pan fry that, and we'll do a creamed cabbage with a little bit of smoked bacon from Wheels Smokery. So we're going to use hispy cabbage with that, pickled celery, some walnuts, and some caramelised apple.
And where did the vegetables come from for this one today?
The veg I just popped into crates, just in Carfax yesterday morning, just to see what was available. So it's quite nice doing that sometimes. You know, you just I'm going to use pork. What I'm going to do with it? So you go into the shop and just
well,
have
absolutely.
a look.
Well, it's all about what's in season and
Absolutely.
What's being grown locally and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got like I say, the loin, but we've also got the belly. So it's basically the best end. It's the best end of the pig. This. So we keep the bone in. That's just going to help keep the shape, keep it nice and kind of juicy as we cook it. Stop it drying out. You know, the trick is to cook it to a point where it is still pink, and then let it rest. And so that residual heat will do the work for you, and it will cook the pork through. But we'll also retain that kind of that moisture from.
But that's your skill of getting those timings perfect.
Kind of, yeah, it keeps me in the job, doesn't it, a little bit? So yeah, we're going to start with this first. So, tiny bit more. We don't need too much because there's going to be a huge amount of fat that's going to come out of this. I'm not going to start the pan too hot either, so you can't, normally say get the pan hot, you throw it in, it's sizzling and sizzling and sizzling, but what that does, it will colour it up straight away. And so you because we've got quite a bit of fat on here, which we actually don't want to be eating, so we're going to put it through a process called rendering. So it removes the fat from the meat, and then gives you this perfectly crisp kind of layer of fat. But if the pan's too hot to begin with, you're going to burn that or colour it up too soon before you have a chance to bring that kind of fat out of it. So what I've got here, I've just got some of the smoked bacon from Wheeled Smokery. I'm just going to dice that up. And funny thing with bacon, so you get different cuts. You have the streaky and the back bacon, but you don't. I think there's a lot of people that don't associate bacon and the cut bacon to the actual piece of pork. And so this back bacon is the same cut as this piece of pork. Okay, but just exactly the same.
Dealt with differently.
Yeah, and so.
And bacon and cabbage are a match made in heaven, aren't they? And
Well, it's one of the few things that I actually cooked that my mum cooked.
Really?
So it's starting to colour a bit too much for what I want at this point. So we'll turn that heat down. And so let it keep going gently.
There is nothing quite like the smell of pork cooking and bacon cooking, and it's just it's gorgeous now. I can tell it.
But what makes it as well is the quality of that pork.
Of course,
And the supermarket pork is just not this. It just isn't. It's kind of injected with water. As soon as it hits the pan, that water comes out, and you see it straight away. Your piece of your kind of piece of meat or cut of meat that you had, this just shrinks straight away.
And the pan ends up with, instead of the oil in it, it ends up with just a sort of sea of and it always steams the meat instead of being able to.
Yeah, absolutely. It just doesn't get it crisp like this. So with the cabbage, I've got a hispy cabbage here, and you kind of use anything. I like using Savoy cabbage, but it's kind of a little bit later in the yard, start to use that. But these hispies are great at the moment. So we're going to cut it up, just take the core out. Just because that's going to cook at a different speed, because it's so much thicker than the leaf. We'll shred through this. So while we're cutting through that, we'll put the bacon into the pan. So we're just going to fry this bacon off a little bit, and touch of butter in there. So the butter, as that kind of melts down and the buttermilk starts to kind of separate, that will start to fry, and that's going to help us colour this bacon. And also give like, loads of flavour to it as well.
You know, I so should have had breakfast this morning. It's smelly, there's nothing quite like that.
But yeah, you should have done, because you're not having any of this.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I've added the cabbage to that. Just kind of mixed it around, cooked it down for a few minutes. What I'm going to do is just add a touch of water. So the water is just going to speed this process up a little bit. Let's cook it. We'll turn the heat up. Just keep the vibrancy of the colour. Right, so that pork, you can see it. I mean, you can't really hear it or feel it, but it's like super crispy. So now we can start turning it over and really start to.
So a piece of pork that big, how many would that serve, would you say?
What?
No, surely not.
Two maximum. So this is you can see it's a beautifully coloured up, but still, it's still raw in the middle. So what we're going to do, rather than keep going like this, so we're going to dry it out more by keep frying it like this. So what we're going to do, put a pan over the top.
So
with a little bit of water.
If we were indoors, would you put this in the oven at this point or not? Would you still prefer to do something like
so
this?
So I would actually cook this in a salt dough. That's how I would normally do it. So I cook a lot of my pork in a salt dough, so that it gets the heat in there, but retains the moisture, and then we'd finish it in the pan afterwards. So kind of we'll do the reverse.
Okay.
It's an amazing way to cook pork.
So you're sort of sealing in the juices with the salt dough, as opposed to sealing it with heat at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Or you can seal it and then wrap it in the dough, but the dough tends to then become very soft and then will split when you wrap it up. Once you add the cream, we'll juice it, cook it down and down and down and down, and so it becomes thick. So it's almost like a mayonnaise consistency.
Okay. And this is
just double helps
cream,
bind it. Just double cream.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd work with. It certainly wouldn't work with single cream.
No.
Whipping cream might be a bit too heavy for it. So celery, we just peeled it. We're going to take out these strings. It's bizarrely one of my favourite jobs. This.
Is it? It's satisfying, is it?
Yeah. It's just therapeutic. Okay, so I've got celery. So I've just literally peeled the strings out of it, and then just peeled it down again. So in there, I've just got like a tablespoon of soy sauce, same amount of oil, pinch of salt, and just squeeze of half a lime. So it's kind of, just a kind of salty marinade for that.
So does that take long to absorb the flavours?
No, so we'll literally just kind of dress it like a salad, really.
Okay.
Quite citrusy, so we'll get quite a lot of lime in there. So we've got some Granny Smith apples here. So pork and apple, obviously.
Perfect,
We'll take the core out and just take off these sharp edges.
So you're leaving a bit of the skin on?
Yeah.
Does that help it sort of hold its shape and give some colour?
No, it just kind of
texture,
it's a little bit of texture. It just a little bit present for the presentation, really. You know our chefs. Well,
of course.
So we're going to make some caramelised apple from this. So it's just a pan. We'll put some sugar to that. So we'll turn this into caramel, just melt the sugar down. So it's going to go quite slowly to start with. And then as soon as it starts to colour, it's when you need to keep an eye on it. It will go very quickly after that. Just add some texture to the dish. So I've just got some hazelnuts.
Yeah, this is the sort of thing that you just mustn't get distracted, because I've done this badly a few times.
Well, I'm hoping you're just going to keep an eye on it for me.
I'll watch it for you. I'll watch it for you.
So it's starting to go down.
Okay.
So we'll use the bottom of that pan.
So you've just got some hazelnuts.
Yeah, so they've been pre-roasted already.
Okay.
And peeled. Kind of, if you can buy them like that, just buy them like that. With the skins, or you have to roast them, roll them, and make some mess.
Yes, yeah. No, I think you can buy them.
Okay, just go quickly. So we'll add the apples. A bit of butter. And we'll turn the heat right down now.
So is the secret here to keep them moving so it doesn't...
Keep them moving. It just coats them, stops the caramel from burning in one place. Okay, so that touch of water just helps emulsify that, to bring together that water, the sugar and the butter. Okay, so it makes it much more of like a caramel sauce.
Okay.
We'll add a tiny bit more water. So this will just help the apples cook. And then as that water kind of reduces down and evaporates, it will take it back to that caramel sauce. So obviously you need to be super careful that it doesn't splash up and hit your fingers because
it's very hot.
You'll know about it.
Yeah.
So you see that beautifully coloured up. So pork will always feel tougher as you cook it, and it kind of tightens up as you cook it. It will always feel quite tough. You can see there's still a bit of give in there, which means the centre is probably a little bit under at this precise moment. So we're just going to leave that to rest. Ideally wrap that in tin foil.
Okay.
Let it do its thing there.
Well, and sort of let it rest for 10 minutes?
Yeah, ideally you'd kind of leave it for about 10, something like that. I'd leave for 10 minutes and then really relax. Okay, so these hazelnuts, I'm just going to dress with a little hazelnut oil. With hazelnut oil, tiny little bit of salt, just the smallest amount of lime. Ideally just kind of grate some over the top. So I've just added some sage, just keeping the flavours classic with the pork, which is something I don't really do, but to eat is amazing. So sage is just in the garden. So, and then, just mix that through. So the pork tastes it. So we're going to take this off the bone. So it's kind of done its job now. And we're going to take, so this top piece is actually the belly. This is the belly part. So I'm going to do a couple of slices of the belly. So you can see, like, it's just, and that's just in a pan. There's no, that's just cooked like that.
I mean, you can see how moist and juicy that is.
And and that's kind of temperature. Not starting it too fast and just being patient, and just that pan over the top and a little bit of water is so key. Well,
I think there's many home cooks that have crucified them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pork, and it's probably put people off, but when it's good, it's spectacular.
Sometimes it's just because of a poor product.
Butchers are usually really knowledgeable about how to sort of treat meat well and cook it properly. And they love, from my experience, they absolutely love sharing that knowledge. And if you say that this is the sort of meal I want to have, what do you advise? And they are so helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they want their meat to shine. Of course they do. So never worry about asking a butcher how to cook meat.
And they love a chat as well, don't they?
They do.
They love a chat. Okay, so just put the cabbage on the bottom and put the loin just on top of that. Top the celery. And just off the edge, two pieces of belly. Do you like my tweezers, by the way?
They're very smart. Are they proper chefy tweezers?
Yeah, look at them. A couple of roasted apples, some of our hazelnut dressing. And so you made a sauce or anything with this, so we'll just take some of these cooking juices as well. And so that's, it's all just flavour. There's thyme in there, the salt, the roasted juices from the pork. So there we have it. We have roasted pork loin. So we've taken the belly off with creamed cabbage with a little bit of chilli and bacon through that. Pickled celery, crushed hazelnuts, caramelised apple.
Matt, that looks absolutely amazing. And before we have a little try, I'd like to go over to Luke at the Horsham Cellar, who's going to pair a suitable drink to serve with this gorgeous dish.
To pair with Matt Gillan's roasted pork loin with the cream cabbage, the smoky bacon and the toasted hazelnuts, I have plumped for what is actually my first English red in the range, launched very recently. It's from the Albourne estate, based just outside Henfield, and in fact it's their first still red wine as well. It's 100% Pinot Noir, aged for a year in new and old French oak barrels, and it's a classic cool climate Pinot Noir. So by that I mean you can expect lots of red currants, strawberry, red fruit flavours, a touch of sweet cherry almost from the oak aging, bit of that vanilla coming through. But you get this lovely sort of almost savoury and mouth-watering acidity from the cool climate nature of it. And that acidity works really well with pork. Works really well with creamed dishes as well. So your creamed cabbage is the acidity in this English Pinot is going to cut nicely through that. But the savouriness you get with it is going to work beautifully with the smoky elements from the smoked bacon. Historically, I've struggled a little bit with English reds. I mean, we make some of the best sparkling wine, still white, still rosé in the world in this country, without a shadow. Not many producers are actually producing red, and there's certainly tiny volumes. But I was really impressed with this when I tried it, and so delighted to make it my first English red in the range. And as I say, it will pair beautifully with this pork loin dish, with the cream cabbage, and it would in fact it would pair beautifully with any pork dish. If you're doing a pork chop at home, the sort of the fat element in that will be a perfect foil for the acidity in this Pinot Noir. Available here at the Horsham Cellar for $18.99 a bottle. You can buy direct from the vineyard if you're in the area and doing a tour, but thoroughly recommend it if you haven't tried a cool climate Pinot Noir or an English red before. Couldn't recommend it more highly. Enjoy.